think the reasons for automating them in C Sharp? So can you hear me? So the question was that why are the companies moving towards Selenium with C Sharp?
Perhaps the dev code is in C Sharp.
Right. So one of the reasons. So normally Selenium with Java is what companies prefer, 90% of the company. But there are few companies who are working with C Sharp. I mean to say, when you are developing the projects in C Sharp, so they only prefer automating Selenium with C Sharp. So being said that, so I think someone has already the knowledge on C Sharp. So let's get started then. So let me share my screen. Let me share it. Hmm. So let me know when everyone can see the screen. You should see a car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let me go through the contents of the course, which we will be going through that. So let me go to the top. So introduction part. So why we need automation testing and when to start, how to start it, and what is automation test strategy. So we will discuss about it. And then, so before coming into the C Sharp directly, so we need to learn IDE very well. So how to record the scripts, how to execute it, and why we need IDE when we are already writing the scripts in Webdriver. So does IDE has still got any importance? So we need to understand that when it is used, where it is used, and why it is used. And we will see that as well. And then we will work out with how to install or how to configure Visual Studio with the Selenium WebDriver. And in Visual Studio, how to create a solution, how to create multiple projects, how to refer each project with another project, and then know the basics of the WebDriver. So the browser commands, element commands, all the different elements on a web page, how to interact with them, and how to write the code. So we'll be dealing with ID, name, and link. So the different type of locator strategies, along with advanced XPath locator concepts, the differences between the CSS selectors and the XPath, how to use them, where to use them, the syntaxes so that are required to write the programs. And yes, the very first question when you say or when you attend any interviews, so they will ask you the first question, what is a framework and what type of frameworks did you work with, and can you explain the framework? So that will be the first question in the interview. So in our course, we'll be dealing with the NUnit framework, and we also generate the reports. We use some design patterns and how many patterns are available, why only page object model, and what is page factory. So we are going to discuss them. And most importantly, the next part is the code repository. See, once you write the code, where are you going to store that? And how is that accessible by you or by any other person? and can that be integrated with the continuous integration tools like Jenkins? So we are going to see that as well. So we need to configure our Visual Studio by using NUnit framework, using the code repositories, integrate everything with Jenkins. So just with the help of a click or not even click, scheduling the jobs in Jenkins so that the execution will be happening every day night, and the next day morning you will have the results in an email with the attachments. So when you get the results in the email, so that will be the last step of your automation life cycle. And also we'll see how to run our tests parallelly in your local machine, and also executing your scripts on different machines parallelly. So we'll try to see that as well. So to do all these things, so you need to have the detailed understanding of the C# concepts. So what we'll be covering in the C# would be the first 4 or 5, it's very basics, and from here the actual content starts. So what are the rules and how many data types are available, types of methods, access specifiers, castings, conversions, parsings, loops, conditional statements, arrays, so that goes on the list. And very importantly, we should be thorough with OOPS concepts of .NET. Without OOPS concepts, we cannot write even one line of code in our project. So normally who are already working, so can you try to guess or can you try to explain what is the meaning of driver is equal to new Firefox driver? Anyone? I mean, who are already there?
That means which is used for the that means opening the new Firefox. That means which driver is that? Is it the Chrome driver or Firefox? What the driver which is used for? We use it for the Chrome browser. We have to open the Chrome browsers.
Perfectly said. So there, what is the driver? Is that a variable? So you say driver equal to new Chrome driver. So what is a driver there? Is it a class? Is it an interface? Or is it an object? What is it? So try even the wrong answers also, not at all a problem, because we are here to learn the concepts, right? So we will learn the right way. So what is the Firefox driver? So what can you call that line? Is it a class? See, only that line, one line. So let me write it on the screen. So no worries. So even if you don't know, try some wrong answers as well. No problem. So will that line look similar to this? So yes or no? So will your line look similar to this? Yes, it is an object. So one person said right. So are you creating an object for a class or an interface? So only with this line we can do interview for 45 minutes. Only one line. So it covers entire OOPS concepts of C#. So we need to understand each and every word of your program. Only then you will be specialized programmers in C Sharp. If you just use it, so it doesn't make very sense just to copy and paste the code. So as a programmers, we need to know each and every word of your program. So we will discuss this. What is this line doing, and is this a method? Is this a class, or is this a constructor? So we'll discuss each one of them. Fine, not an issue. And yes, so basically I'll be focusing on each and every single topic here. That includes the OOPS concepts as well. See, the way we learn the course here is learn first few concepts of C Sharp, implement the same in Visual Studio, come back to C Sharp, learn few more concepts, go back to Visual Studio, apply those with Selenium, and again come back to C Sharp, learn the remaining concepts and apply them with your C Sharp Selenium. Because for every concept in C Sharp, you need to know in real time how we apply these concepts. Only then the course will have a meaningful course. What can we say that? Yeah. So I mean that is how we design the course. So learn things parallelly and implement in Selenium, and then go to the next topics. All right. So till here. So do you have any questions? No questions? Can we say yes? No? Thank you. All right. So Suresh said no. That's good. So shall we move to the next topics? Yes. No. So everyone silent. Hello.
No questions. We can move on.
Okay. That's good. All right then. So let's get started with the basics of the programming languages. So let me open the notepad. So I'll be sending you the notes after the end of the class, day to day, to your emails. So if you miss to note something down during the class, so you can just go through the notes after the class. So alright, the first thing which we would like to see is what are the differences between the C, C++, and maybe VB and Java. So finally, I'll just compare everything with the C Sharp. So when we talk about these many languages, so why are we only doing our programming in C Sharp? So can we say C language as the structured programming language, or unstructured programming language, or procedural oriented language? So what can we call that? So everyone might have done their projects in C in your BTech or in your degrees. So we should be knowing this, isn't it? The basic differences. So C is a procedural language. Of course, yes, it is. It is a structured programming language. structured programming language. And why did we move out from C? So C was very popular. So why did we move out from C? Can we develop websites using C? Can we develop desktop applications using C language? Yes. So we can develop desktop applications but not websites. So we cannot develop any websites using C programming language. And also, is a GUI available in C? So GUI, it's a graphical user interface. That means if you want to develop any usernames or password fields, so do you have the GUIs available in C? It is not available. So you need to use some libraries and then you need to write long lines of code in C to develop one simple login screen. And then can I call C language as object-oriented language? So these are all the interview questions you might face this. So is C language, is it an object-oriented language? Yes, it is partially object-oriented programming language. It is, but it is not fully, but it is only very partial. So the basics of C. So people find out very difficult to develop websites or the GUIs. So it's very difficult for them. So they just moved out from C to C++. What can C++ do? So whatever the drawbacks of C language are covered in C++. So is C++ object-oriented language? Yes, it is. Yes, it is object-oriented programming language. And the second thing is GUI available here? Here also GUI is not available. And can you develop websites? No, here also we cannot develop any websites. So one advantage of C++ is that it supports multiple inheritance. It's a very important topic. So it supports the multiple inheritance but not any other programming language. And why people moved out from C++ is because of the security issues. So why security issues? Because C++ supports pointers, so which causes security issues. So pointers which store the address of the memory locations. So if someone can take the memory location, so your data is lost. So we have these many advantages and disadvantages of going to C++. So they moved out from C++ and they went to VB. So is VB, is it a object-oriented programming language? Yes, it is also object-oriented programming language. Does VB has GUI? Yes, it has built-in GUI. So that makes life very easy, and programming is also very easy. It is a loosely typed language where you no need to follow any rules for that. Plain English, you can just go on typing it. So this is also used for developing desktop or client applications, but not websites. Most important point here is that, is VB platform independent or platform dependent? So you might hear these questions in your first round if you are attending any automation interviews. So is Java or C Sharp, is it platform independent or platform dependent? So the VB is platform dependent. So that means I cannot work with other operating systems if I develop something in VB. And so what happened? So we have the next versions of VB, and people have the other options. So they went for the most powerful language, Java. So why we have to use Java or .NET? Why companies prefer to use this as their programming language? The very first point, it is platform independent. So write code once, execute it anywhere. That is the quotation of Java. And next point is, can you develop websites using Java? Yes, we can develop websites. And does Java has built-in GUI? Built-in GUI? The answer is no. It doesn't have any built-in GUI. That is the biggest disadvantage of Java. So if you are developing any project in Java or in C Sharp, so the development is faster in C Sharp because the Microsoft.NET has got inbuilt GUI. So the development time is very less in .NET compared to Java. And yeah, so let's come to Microsoft.NET. Now, what do you think is the Microsoft.NET? So how do you define it? So people say .NET, .NET and Java. So what is Microsoft.NET? So can anyone guess? So you might have heard many things about Microsoft.NET. So how do you define? So what is a Microsoft.NET? No idea? So if no idea, can you just tell no idea so that I can continue? Or if you know something, so you can just share it. Okay, so let me something tell you about the Microsoft.NET. So Microsoft.NET, it is a framework. It is a framework. So from here the question starts. So what is a framework? So the Microsoft.NET is a framework, and the framework is a collection of multiple languages and common specifications. So this is actually the definition of Microsoft.NET. So that is a framework. That is not a programming language. It is a framework. So framework contains multiple languages. So what all comes under Microsoft.NET? The multiple languages. So first one, C#.NET, VB.NET, VC++.NET, J#.NET, F#.NET. Did I miss anything? Did I miss?
ASP.NET.
Right. ASP.NET is not a what we call the programming language. It is a web technology. ASP.NET is a web technology. It's not a programming language, right? So that's the difference. I mean, when I say collection of multiple languages, it has these things. And common specifications, this one, ASP.NET. So you can develop your web applications in ASP.NET using any of these programming languages. So that's the basic definition of the Microsoft.NET. So is that clear till now? The very basics of what's a .NET and what is a multiple languages. So does anyone has
Yes.
any questions? So if no questions, I have one question. Which technology is considered more secure? That is, applications developed in Java or .NET. So a general question. So if I develop in Java and if I develop in .NET, so which applications will be more secure?
Obviously .NET.
Okay, but why? Why .NET?
Because Java is open source, we can use anywhere. And Microsoft.NET is a paid version tool,
Mhm.
which is used for security main thing. We have to go for the commercial tool. So that
Java is also very secure. If you say it is less secure, many applications running now on the internet. So do they have the security flaws?
no, not like that. But for considering the web applications, most of the web applications
Hmm.
they have to write on both on Java and .NET. But for gaming designing, they have to go for the Java main.
So your answer is right. So the applications developed in .NET are more secured than Java. But why? The reason is that the .NET has inbuilt security classes. So Microsoft itself has developed more inbuilt security classes, while Java does not have that. So as you said, it is right. So the Microsoft.NET, one of the disadvantage is that it is not open source because the security is always, no, you have to pay for it. So Microsoft has developed so many inbuilt classes which are considered to be the most security, which are having the most security through the authentication or the windows or forms or passports or not our passports. So Microsoft.NET has the passports kind of security. So because of that, the applications developed in .NET are more secured than Java. So can I say now .NET is platform independent? So is .NET, Microsoft.NET platform independent? So what is platform independent? I mean, how do we analyze that question? So you wrote code in one operating system, and can you execute your programs on other operating systems? That's what the question is.
Yeah, we can use.
So
We
when
can execute the scripts in under OS also.
Another voice, yeah, can you do that?
Yes.
Java is
We are
100%.
executing. We are writing.
Java is
Yeah.
100% platform independent. You can execute your scripts on any operating system. .NET, it is partially platform independent. So why? Because so the latest versions of Windows, like whatever we are using now, XP or Vista or Windows 7, Windows 10, all these platforms are fully platform independent for .NET. But if you write your program in latest operating system, let's say Windows 7 or Windows 10, you cannot execute it on Windows 95 operating system. So you cannot do that. Or you cannot execute on Windows 98. So the older versions of Microsoft do not support the code which you developed in latest versions. So that's the reason, that's the only reason we say it is partially platform independent. But otherwise, it is also fully platform independent compared to Java. Can we list out any disadvantages till now of using Microsoft.NET? So I see majorly two things. Whoever are using Microsoft.NET for testing or development, we see two disadvantages. First one, it is not free. Or, okay, let me ask this question. Can you tell me the difference between free and open source? Are both same? So do
That means free means we don't have the code. That means the code is under where we have to download like apps. Some apps are free, it is freely downloaded, but the code is not is valid, and it is while open source we have to the code is visible to us.
correct. So free means you can access the applications without any payment, but the source code which is used to develop that applications, you cannot see that code if you say it is free. But if you say it is open source, you have the control, or you could see the developed code also. Now just tell me, is Selenium free or open source? Is it free or open source?
It's open source.
It's open source. That means you can see the code, how they develop Selenium, and you can use it. And if you don't like it, you can change the code inside it. But trust me, out of 100, 99.9% people, we we suffer a lot to just use the code. Only that 0.001% people, so they go in depth into the code, and if they don't like it, they will change it. So we need to decide in which category we will fall. And the second disadvantage of Microsoft.NET. So those who are already working, can you just try this? So what do you think there is a disadvantage of using .NET? Installation takes more space.
2003. Yes, it will take space and it will take more time compared to the Eclipse.
Yes, more space, and it requires more time also. To install Visual Studio, whatever is the version, so 2015 or 17, how much space is required? the minimum space required to install Visual Studio, how much space it occupies? It's around 15 to 16 GB. So to install this, you need to have this much of space. So it occupies 16 GB literally. Whether you use the functionalities or not, you have to have that much of space. And because of this, you have so many components interlinked to each other. The execution is also a little slow compared to Java. And how much space does the Eclipse occupies when you are doing Selenium with the Java? Anyone has idea? If you are running on Java, if you use Eclipse, it is less than 300 MB. If you have just 300 MB, you can install Eclipse and you can do it. And moreover, this Eclipse is not an installer. It is a standalone application. That means no installations are required. But .NET, it requires installation, it requires more space, and it is not free. But only advantage what we see, what the companies see, is that it is more secured, more and more secured compared to Java. So that's the reason we are still on Microsoft. So are we clear till now? Excellent. Very good. So let's see one small thing here. So when I take this as the programming language, what is the extension of your files and what is the compiler it is required? So if you are working on C#, what will be your extension of your files? How do you save it? How?
While build the application, we have to form the DLLs.
Now what is the file extension? When you write a program and when you save it, what is the extension of your file?
.cs.
Correct. And what is the compiler used? So why we need a compiler?
Which is useful for testing the if there any bug, any errors which are found.
Okay, that is a compile time error, but compiler has a different purpose. Don't worry, we'll see this. So we need something which converts your plain English into the bytecodes, and then the bytecodes are sent to the another just-in-time compilers, and what we have the runtime engines. We will see that. So we'll see the internal architecture of .NET. See, have you heard of JVM? People using in Java? Java Virtual Machine, isn't it? What we have similar to that in .NET? So you might have heard about JVM. People use it. So do we have something similar in .NET? We should have, isn't it? Otherwise, how can we compile? How can we convert our program into machine readable format? So those who already working, so the similar engine, what we call is CLR, Common Language Runtime engine in .NET. So we'll see that how is the process when you write a code, in which format we saved, and from that how the system takes that format and what does it do. So we will see that. So let's just fill this VB.NET. So if you're writing something in VB.NET, so what is the format it is saving? The file, it is vb.vb. Every programming language has its own compilers. So here it is VBC. See, CS stands for C sharp and C is for compiler. So VB compiler. And similarly, VC++.NET, if we say this, then we have dot. So those who worked on VC++.NET, it is CPP. And here it has CL. And see why we need to know about all this. Microsoft has a biggest advantage. When you know one language under .NET, you can use another programming language in your programming language. That should be under the umbrella of .NET. JSI. So these are all the new technologies which are used in the market. So recently, what is the most programming language which is gaining popularity? You don't say it is C sharp. C sharp is gone. So the most programming language which is gaining popularity, it is Python. So Python can also be integrated with C sharp, and we call it as C Python. So if we are using .NET, we have to know something about the other languages, because we can integrate the languages, other languages which comes under .NET framework. All right. So shall we go to the next topic?
Yes.
Excellent. So next topic is very important, and every automation engineer should know about this, because without this we cannot do anything. .NET. Let me open Word. So the next topic is the internal architecture of. So I'll discuss both Java and .NET. Oh, sorry, why we need this? Right. So we will try to understand the internal architecture of Java. So when you write a program in Java, so the extension would be .java file. So you save it to your machine, local machine. So from there it is converted into bytecode. So who is converting this into bytecode? Your compiler is converting from .java file to the bytecode. What is bytecode? Bytecode is nothing but the format in which the JVM can understand. See, ultimately the machines can only understand the program whatever you wrote in the form of zeros and ones. Other than that, it cannot take anything else. So this bytecode is then sent to JVM. JVM stands for Java virtual machine. So this JVM will convert your bytecode into machine language. So what does the machine language contains? It's only zeros and ones. Then this machine language file is sent to your operating system, and who process that? The processor will process the zeros and ones file. And who process this? The bytecode. So the JVM. So this JVM also has internally JIT compiler. So JIT stands for just in time. See, there are two compilers working together to convert your program, whatever you wrote, into zeros and ones, and it will be sent to the operating system, and the processor is responsible to execute your program. So that's it. This is how the architecture of Java is. But I'm not interested in Java now, so I'll go to internal architecture of .NET, Microsoft .NET. It is not only for C#, it is the same for every language under Microsoft .NET. So the program, whatever we write, so it will be in the form of .cs file. So thus this .cs file will be sent to, or it is converted to, this is very important, Microsoft Intermediate Language, or we can also call it as Common Intermediate Language. So your compiler, even the Microsoft.NET has a compiler. The purpose of this compiler is that so it will convert your .cs file into this Microsoft Intermediate Language, which is similar to the bytecode in Java. And once it is done, this will be sent to, so when you compile this, so someone already said that, so when we compile our .NET code or your class file, we will get the output in two forms. What are they? It is .dll or it is .exe file. See, when you compile your program, it can be a development program or a testing program. When you compile it, so we will get output in these two forms. What does DLL stands for? DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. Dynamic Link Library. And exe, the executable file. And then when we execute this DLL or exe file, so here we have the question like, can we execute DLL files? No, we cannot execute DLL files. We can only refer the DLL files. So when we refer them or execute the exe files, so then it is sent to common, or we can just say CLR. It is Common Language Runtime Engine. So this is a similar engine to the JVM. So this also has got JIT compiler, so just in time compiler, and then the code, it is then sent to the operating system. So the CLR converts your intermediate language file into zeros and ones with the help of this engine. So it is almost the same, but only thing is the engines are different. So are the architectures of Java and .NET clear?
Yes, but I have a question that we can run by DLLs also by using the NUnit framework. NUnit, we can run the DLLs also. Right now we are doing the execution for that. Also we are doing by using DLLs. We have to run the execution scripts also.
Right. See what you are doing in NUnit. You are just referring the DLL file so that it is creating a link between the NUnit and your Visual Studio code. You can not run the DLL files. You can only refer them because the name itself says it is a link library. Right? You open NUnit and what you are doing, you just open the DLL file. When you open it, so it is going to refer whatever the class files it has compiled. So you are going to get a reference. So with that reference, it is going to execute that. Right? So any other questions? So we call exe files or DLL files as an assembly. So when you compile anything, so it generates an assembly. So an assembly can be either DLL files or exe files. So we will see when exe is generated and when .dll file is generated and how to create the DLL files and how to create the exe files in the programs from Visual Studio. So those who already know, can you just give me a hint when to generate DLL and how to generate this DLL files?
After writing the code, we have to build the application, build the that means the code that will automatically generate the DLLs.
Right. So when I just compile the code, build it, how do you know that it is going to generate a DLL or exe? How do you know that? You are building the project, absolutely fine. So when you build, you are going to see that the DLL file is generated. But why is it only generating DLL? Why not an exe? Isn't it? You will get the question. So when can I generate exe? What is the criteria? Or every time will I get DLL when I write the program and build it? No, right? So there is some criteria on when to or how to create exe files or how to create .dll files. We will see that in the next class. So I wanted to stop here for now. If you have any questions, you can post it now. We ask every single question you have, even if it is small, big, because there is a lot to learn. So if you know the basics very well, programming is very easy. You can build your own frameworks, not depend on developers. So Suresh has got no questions. I'm doing now. Okay, fine. So Siva and Tanusha, have any questions for today's class?
No.
No.
All right then. So if no questions, I have so many questions. We'll post it in the next class.
Okay.
All right then. Thank you very much for your time. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you.